Last week's episode, we went over to visit Mr. Pirate. We scanned the roof to put a rack on, picked some colours for the fancy bit in the engine bay before heading over to Jamie's. If you haven't seen that one, make sure you click the link below and watch that one before this one. Thank you.
It's all stripped out.
Hang on. So last time I was here, I thought this wasn't coming out.
Yeah, it was.
It was?
Correct.
So hopefully we don't have to pull our motor out and put it in here.
No, I'll find a way of making it a bigger job than it needs to be. I think with a car like this, it's always, especially because there's only a short motor in there, the best way, realistically, to save the client a bit of money and, of course, make my job a lot easier is instead of working over the quarter panels of the car, trying to assemble cylinder heads and so on, for the short amount of time it takes just to rip the rest of the motor out, it's a lot easier. So that way, there was a couple of oil leaks down the bottom. We can address those while it's out. We can have a good look at inspection at the crank and rods and make sure there's no hidden surprises in there at the same time. So it's a little bit of rust treatment here. There's nothing over the top.
Yes, that was that rusty part.
Couple of spots around the car, nothing major, and just obviously gave everything a really good clean because it was all full of sand. So
I think it has done some dune work, I believe.
Looks like it, yeah. As you would with something like this. So that bell housing was completely full of sand.
Yeah,
right. As was the clutch. So that's all been tidied up and cleaned out.
It's a good thing we pulled that out.
Yeah. A couple of little cracks around like where the steering box is, so I'll get Alex to run over those with the MIG. And other than that, it seems pretty straight, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. So where is the motor?
I sold it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are we going to put in here then?
That's over it.
It's actually smaller than I thought it would be. Probably.
Yeah, most women I meet say the same thing.
Yeah, also have that problem. That's why we drive big cars, right?
Yeah. The only things I've really seen in the bores, there's some watermarks in here. A little bit of scoring, but nothing major.
Is that because water's gone in there?
Yeah, so this is the main cylinder where there's the issue which we need to hone. So if you run your finger around that bottom watermark, you can actually
oh yeah,
you can actually feel
you can
that.
Feel it. Yeah. So why did water go in there? Can you explain that?
Well, the water would have been in there for one of two reasons or both. So if it's done the head gasket, obviously it will draw in water by itself. So as the piston comes down and it's trying to suck fuel and air in, if there is a leak in the head gasket, of course it's going to draw the water in at the same time. Right. Another reason why people get watermarks such like that for water sitting in the cylinder for a long period of time is if they pull the cylinder heads off, and then of course as you pull them off there will be some coolant going in there if you don't drain it all correctly, and then the coolant sits in the bore and then they walk away from it and put a rag over the top of the motor, and 2 or 3 months later they come back and there's the watermark, so
you honing it, does that take, is it like a polisher or it takes a bit of
the
skin off?
We'll just use a bead hone for this, so it's something we just apply to a drill.
Yeah.
It's got a whole bunch of beads and stones on the outside instead of a really heavy hone.
Yeah.
Instead of doing a machine hone on this one, we'll just do it by hand. And basically it'll just get rid of the glazing, it'll get rid of the majority of those watermarks. Won't get rid of all the little bits of scoring from the skirt and also from the rings, but that'll be fine for this application. And just a bit of a tidy up, and that way we can chuck the pistons in the spin wash, get rid of all the carbon, and then refit the rings. And
all this sort of soot that's on them, we're going to
get
rid
of that.
It'll
be gone.
Yeah, right.
They'll
okay.
look brand new. So,
cool.
Even most of the staining from the fuel there will come off.
You do that on site? We send them away.
Yeah,
on site.
On site. So
cool. Other than that, though, it looks healthy-ish.
From what we see here, until we spin it upside down a bit later on this afternoon, and have a look and pull off a couple of caps and check the bearings and make sure they're all good.
So maybe the marketplace guy was legit.
It looks okay so far. So this one's got a really early style LS water pump. So this is like what we would sufficiently see on very early LS2 or LS1. So it's got a really long snout on here, and obviously your brackets all comprehend that. So
yeah.
Being the American version, LQ9 and all that sort of series, this is really common to see. So not something we'd see on a later model 6 litre or 6.2 in Australia.
And being iron on the bottom, can you explain that and what that means compared to like an alley block?
Basically strength.
So where is iron here? Like the bottom half, this whole section?
This engine block itself.
Copy.
That is the cast iron.
That's
item.
the cast iron part.
So
LS1's over here. This is all aluminium.
Yeah, over here they are.
Gotcha.
Yeah. As
okay.
LS2, LS3, we actually never got an iron block in Australia, and that's why they're becoming such a big thing for.
So that's
for
why this can handle so much power. Like if we were to put that turbo on Christian's drift car, it would essentially be rapid disassembly.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, look, a lot of guys still prefer the aluminium blocks because they're a lot lighter.
Lighter.
You sacrifice. I mean, obviously, you get a lot more strength out of an iron block.
So better in a 4B as opposed to like a drift car where you need it to be light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, you sort of you take one for the other. So this is definitely a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And
take a bit more punishment.
Yeah. I mean, I started importing these cast iron blocks years ago, and they're sort of really a hot topic. I mean, obviously there's a lot of aftermarket blocks available now, and so these are sort of a bit of a dying trade in the industry in a sense, but a lot of guys are opting for, you know, big build cars. They'll buy a brand new dart block or something of the like. So, but essentially they're all basically a copy of what you see here. But yeah, it should be a pretty cool motor and hopefully make some power.
Yeah.
Easy over 1,000 anyway. So we haven't turned the motor over yet or really had a good look since we got it out. See a really big witness mark here where the piston's actually been hitting the cylinder head. So this might actually be half the issue as to why these cylinder heads got removed. Obviously pistons will have a bit of rock in them anyway, mainly side to side. But this could be the cause of, you know, obviously.
Is it anything to do with the gasket?
Look, I wouldn't say even if the gasket blew out through there, I wouldn't say you'd get that deep of a witness mark in a piston simply from a gasket. This is a lot stronger than a gasket, you know. So
there's a bearing underneath, and that could be.
Yeah, so the conrod bearing itself could be severely worn. Could also have an issue with water getting into the cylinder and potential hydrolock. So this will be the piston we'll be looking at once we strip this engine today. This will be the main cylinder we'll be looking at. So, but yeah, that's definitely piston hitting head there.
So something to look at.
Absolutely.
And then, so we'll flip this thing over, and what are we going to see when we flip it?
So we'll pull the sump off. That will expose basically the whole bottom end of the motor.
Yep. Sure.
We'll start knocking the pistons out. Obviously we mark everything. Every piston has worn into each cylinder. Obviously this would have been bored and honed, and we would hope torque plated as well. So, you know, we'll address all of that and make sure there's no issues in the cylinder, particularly this one. And once we get that conrod out of that cylinder, we'll know exactly why this happened. So.
Cool. All right, let's flip it over. What do we know?
Okay, so flipped the motor yesterday, took a couple of pistons out. This one was probably the one that we really wanted to see. So
the questionable one.
So we looked at these couple of markings there, which is obviously an indent on the top of the piston where, you know, we're thinking it was nicking the head. And then obviously looking in here, so obviously we've got a bit of bearing wear here on the back of the bearing.
So that's just a replaceable part. We can
Correct,
swap these guys over. So, then why does that wear?
It's just for a lot of, obviously this thing goes for a lot of pressure, so this is spinning ridiculously fast all the time. And
around as it comes up.
So it's not awful. It doesn't seem to have marked the crank all that much, so if we need to give the crank a little linish, and obviously we'll mark it up and make sure it's all within spec. We haven't pulled any main caps off as yet, but we do know just on the back of that bearing that's a 20 under grind already. So we've sort of only got one more grind out of that LS crank at 30, but I think it'll be fine without a grind. So obviously we've got some good supporting mods, dual row timing set there. Wasn't really too much to be concerned about in the sump, although what you realise in there is that sort of jelly looking substance at the bottom, so that when you run ethanol fuels, obviously they end up mixing a little bit with the oil and it does turn into that sort of substance. So
you don't put jelly in your engines?
We can do in this one. We can put sand in it or whatever. So but yeah, look, as I said, the journals on the crank look pretty good. There was no real major issues.
What's going on?
Spun bearings or anything.
What's going on here?
So this is basically when you balance a rotating assembly. So you'll send it off to a specialist machinist. They'll take all of the weights of all the pistons and they'll take all the weights of all the rods. Now, even though they're all manufactured the same, you will find ever so slight differences in the weight. Now, unfortunately, with this balance job, I would usually see some kind of shaving on the cap and also on the small end of the rod. And that would mean basically you weigh all your rods when they come out the box when they're new. You'll find the lightest one, and then you'll skim all the others. So basically they're the same weight throughout the set. Also on the pistons, we'd want to see a little bit of shaving on there. I very much doubt they're all exactly the same. So not the greatest balance job. And then once they spin it up on the balancing machine, they'll figure out whether you need to either add Mallory into the crank, so add weight into the counterweights, or remove weight, either by drilling holes. Some of these are factory holes from factory balancing, and then obviously some people like to take material off the counterweights. So everyone's got their sort of own way of doing it. Obviously the reluctor wheel on the back, I was pretty glad to see that actually tack welded it on in a couple of spots, because they do like to come loose on the LS. But other than that, look, I think everything's fixable. The biggest problem and the dilemma we're running into now is the deck height on the block. So we've got a lot of piston extrusion.
That's because they've skimmed the deck down a few times.
Correct, yeah.
So we've changed the height of that piston rotation, and it is touching the head.
So if you, for example, if you were to put a head on it without a gasket, the piston, the motor basically won't turn over. It'll hit the base of the cylinder head and stop. So there's two ways of getting around it. The cheap way of doing it is putting a super thick head gasket on it. What we'd really like to do is skim the tops of the pistons, so we can
get. Do you have a piston there? We can explain that.
Yeah.
So what's that?
So basically this sort of quench area between, obviously you've got your oil rings here, and then obviously your upper and lower compression ring. Now that quench area there, and that's obviously the top of the piston. When we talk about a true deck height, we're talking about the very top of the block is not extruding that surface. So to try and savour these pistons, because they're bloody expensive, we'll be able to keep these. The little markings, not so much this one, this was on the good side. The ones that are damaged, we'll be able to repair that, and then we'll basically fly cut the tops of the pistons.
So skim a little bit off that, saves putting a thick head gasket, so that ain't.
And the main thing is saving the block.
Yep.
Because we can use all this stuff in another block that hasn't been decked or skimmed.
Yep.
And we've relieved the issue. However, this is not the type of engine block that you want to be going out and buying again. And then you've got all the relative machine costs on top, bore hone, torque plate, etc. So we'll save the boys some money, and we'll skim the tops of these pistons. It's only going to be minimal. Obviously, we don't want to take too much material out, but that small amount that we'll take out, along with a multi-layer steel head gasket, should fix the issue. So
awesome, cool.
Awesome.
Let's do it. All right, so if all that was Chinese, I'm going to explain this how I understand it. This thing here has had too many haircuts. It's too low. This thing's had too many haircuts, and these things are going way too high. So as the motor drives, these go way too high, and it's hitting the part that goes on here, and it's damaging this. So we're going to skim this down. We're going to give this bit a haircut instead of this bit, and then put it back together.
That was fucking really good. Well done.
Yeah, so through here where your cooler piping goes, it was all cracked. Around your engine mounts weren't very pretty at all, so I've just gone through and dressed them up with the TIG.
You definitely don't want to lose the engine, so...
Stripped all the rust.
Yep.
And treated it all. Then I did find an actual bit of rust, cut out and repaired. It was just in that little corner there.
Are we focused?
I think so.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, if this next footage is no good, it's because Michael's on holiday and Christian's behind the camera, OG cameraman. So it's been like, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks since we've been here? We have now painted the engine bay, radiator's out, everything's looking nice. Getting the chassis sanded back at the moment, ready for some paint. But yeah, we thought since we were already in here, there was all that rust that we previously showed. Over here, we thought we may as well paint it up since we've come this far. So what started as a put our car back together has ended up at a...
It's snowball.
Yeah, it's just, snowballed. But we may as well do it properly since we're here. So we'll paint all this chassis up. What else? We're tidying this wiring up over here, Mr. Alex.
Yeah, so obviously going through when we're pulling it apart, we found heaps of dodgy wiring and
Some of it was
stuff that shouldn't have been there.
Some of it was burnt.
I mean, yeah, look, that's all burnt there.
Yeah, a bit of burnt wiring. Is this all necessary?
Some of it is, some of it's not. A lot
Cool.
of it's the old loom. A lot of it's not being used at all.
Yeah.
So it was all just literally zip tied up in that box there, and
Just a big spaghetti monster of,
yeah, just
of
waiting
cables.
for the fire to happen. So
Yeah, yeah.
get all that tied it up. It'll be safe as houses.
Cool, cool. And then what else? Anything else in here? Oh yeah, we changed this brake booster assembly because it was just
Yeah, so we got all that recode and put a new booster, or new cylinder on there.
New
and then
cylinder.
New master.
cool.
Bend up some new brake lines and make it all nice and pretty and work.
So in other words, we're now broke. Here you go, Michael. Here's a bit of B-roll for you, brother. Oh, she's all painted, boy. Bam! Look at that fin spaghetti monster. Bam! There you go. What else we got to film? Here's the last footage of this thing not exploded. Another successful day at NME. I think we did pretty good. Back to work now. So new cameraman. All right, see you when we're back here in about a week and a half. I am off to Perth. So, yeah.